All right, technical session number 23, the cloud. How did they train those beautiful fluffy things in the sky to do computing for us? It's one of those magical things that we experience throughout computing. And there is a meme that goes around, there is no cloud, it's just somebody else's computer, which is reality. That's all it is. It's just somebody else's computer, somebody somewhere else. It's not some magical place where it goes up and it's super secure before you pull it down. So we're going to kind of dive into that a little bit, looking to see there's different types of clouds, different types of infrastructures you can put into place, and how we would implement them. And our objectives are going to be to define the cloud, what it is, and describe its purpose and what it allows us to do. Explain how IT professionals might use knowledge of the cloud to support clients within different types of organizations. Describe the differences between various cloud. Yep. What?
Oh, sorry.
No problem. Describe the difference between various cloud service models like SaaS, PaaS, and IaaS. What do these services mean? Contrast different cloud architectures, including private, public, hybrid, and community models. When would we utilize these? Explain the role of security when it comes to storing information in the cloud. BSMs we want to keep in mind while working through this technical session are adaptability, which essentially is the cloud in general. We didn't want to build all of our own infrastructure, and we wanted a cost-effective way to be able to grow our businesses. So we adapt with the market, utilize other people's resources, and can have more of a community sense of it rather than everybody building their own networks. Personal responsibility. IT, this is a big thing. If you say you're going to do something, you do it. If you make a mistake, own it. If you have a big success, own that too. Because in business world, you are your best representative, your best cheerleader. So when you do things right, let people know it. When you do things wrong, own it. All right, the cloud. It's a model, cloud computing is a model for enabling convenient, on-demand network access to a shared pool of configurable computing resources. Ergo, networks, servers, storage applications, and services that can be rapidly provisioned and released with minimal management and effort or service provider interaction. What does all this mean? Think about Amazon Web Services. They create these giant server farms, and they're able to cool them, maintain the equipment, all that fun stuff, and they're able to provide those services for other people. Now, they're able to do it on such a large scale, and the cost per server is significantly lower than if an individual was trying to build up a server room on their own. And also, you may only need those servers for certain times of the year. Say your business, like if you're H&R Block, your businesses typically run about 3 months a year. That's, the primary portion of your, traffic, and it spikes by 1,000% during 3 months. Well, do you want to maintain servers year round for a 3-month instance? No. So you can spike your costs for 3 months and then drop them back down to your normal servers after that for the rest of the year. It allows you to save money in that process. So it is significantly cheaper for small to mid-tier companies to utilize much larger server farms and buy resources as needed. So we do have caveats though with the cloud, is they're not extremely secure. We talk about security a lot in here, so you should never ever leave the security up to the provider, because they don't really have a whole bunch of incentive for to keep everything secure. That is on you. If they fail to keep things secure, 10,000 people are affected, they pay a little bit of fines, they're good. If you're a mid-sized business and all your customers' credit information gets exposed, they're going to blame you and you'll be out of business. So you never leave it up to the provider. You should create your own security and be careful as to the type of information you're keeping on the cloud. Be sure to create backups of your data in case their servers fail. And you can utilize multiple services. Like you don't necessarily have to rely specifically on Amazon. You could do part of it with Amazon, part of it with Google, part of it with Microsoft, something like that, to kind of diversify your risk. Also, if you do research and development for your companies, you may want to keep some of that information in-house. So you could create an internal cloud that your employees can utilize. We talked about the various cloud services that the big companies have, like Google has OneDrive, Apple has iCloud. What was Microsoft's again? Oh, that was OneDrive. What was Google's?
Google Drive.
Google Drive. There you go. All right. Now, there's various ways we can support organizations using the cloud. Obviously, one of the biggest ones we just talked about, making cost-effective suggestions rather than us building server rooms in our basement that can effectively handle all of our business needs, our web servers and everything like that. We could just farm that out to Amazon or somebody like that. And that infrastructure would be in place instantaneously. Like, we may not even need to speak to a customer service representative to set everything up. It can literally be online in minutes. You can help design a hybrid between the cloud services you're utilizing with like Amazon or Google or what have you, and your own internal infrastructure. So you can create a hybrid cloud. And you can help write some cloud-based policy, like what information is and is not allowed to go in the cloud. What is the percentage of uptime that we require from our cloud services? Is it 99.9 or is it 99.99% uptime? Because 99.9 would allow for, I think it's like 1 to 2 days of downtime for your business. Now you add 1.9 to that, 99.99, you're talking 5 minutes of downtime in an entire year. That's how much they would be allowed down. That's really great, but you're going to have to pay for that extra percentage of security for non-downtime. There are 3 basic cloud service models we need to really be aware of when dealing with them. Easiest one to point out is SaaS, or software as a service. This is the vendor providing you everything. The finished product, all is done. You just log in and go. Google Drive is a good example of that. You have Google Docs, Google's Sheets, Google Slides, all this other stuff. And then you have the storage in the cloud and it's free, right? So they're giving you software as a service. They've completed the entire package for you. Then we're going to move up to the top, which is IaaS, which is infrastructure as a service, although sometimes you'll hear it called HAAS, which is hardware as a service. This is bare metal. They are giving you basically just the hardware. You are responsible for putting everything else on it, operating systems, applications, everything. This is Literally, if you had bought the server out of the box and then you did everything on top of that, this is what you're purchasing. So it's just the hardware. They maintain the hardware, make sure the hardware is in good working order. You do everything on top of that. Questions so far on that? All right. Next, we have the middle ground. Platform as a service. It's not bare metal. It's not a complete solution. This one may have the basic operating system on it, but it has tools in place for you to develop applications that will fit your personal needs on top of their base OS. So they're giving you a platform to develop your applications on top of. Thank you, Janine. So IaaS, bare metal infrastructure, SaaS, complete package, PaaS, you get a little bit, but they're giving you essentially a platform to build upon.
Got a question, Kelly.
Go for it.
Okay, with software as a service, what you're saying is infrastructure is included with that, and platform as well. That's the entire package.
Yes. So software is everything. So you've got servers to support you. You have an operating system to build upon, and then they've given you the applications on top of that. So it's basically it's a whole package. So that's all of it. And then infrastructure is just bare metal. You know, you're essentially renting the equipment, and then you put everything on top of it. And then PaaS is kind of in between. People tend to unfortunately confuse platform and software.
Yeah, I do.
So those are the two that you want to be able to distinguish between platform and software. Infrastructure is easy. It is just bare metal.
So basically, depending on how big your company is, if that would depend on which one you would choose to either create one or have one already created, right?
Not necessarily the size of the company, but yeah, definitely your needs. I mean, the size can play into it. Like if you're a smaller company just kind of getting off the ground, you're probably going to be utilizing somebody else's stuff. Like you're probably going to be using Google Word. You're probably going to be using Google, like Sheets. You're probably going to be using Microsoft Outlook for your email and stuff like that. You're not going to be building those applications for yourself. So small to mid-sized companies might go ahead and just utilize all of that. When you start to get a little bit more developed, or your team gets a little bit better and you want to build your own internal infrastructure, email services, maybe you building your own applications to serve your needs, things like that, that's where platform would come in. And then if you're, say a software company or something like that, maybe you want to do everything from the ground up. So, I mean, it kind of plays into the type of company and the size a little bit.
Got you. Thanks.
So go ahead, Humberto.
Yes, which commercial companies or brands provide platform as a service right now?
Amazon is another one, there's quite a few. Google does it. So you can make these determinations when you're going for cloud services. So an example of platform as a service shows here is salesforce.com, where you have the basic infrastructure that they have in place, but you can kind of plug in some of your own applications on top of it. So, yes, Renzi.
I feel like I don't understand exactly what platform is. Is it the space, like the venue, like the location? I don't get it. Cause it looks like it's, I don't know.
Essentially, all of this can be done out of the same warehouse. It's just what level of stuff are you wanting to buy from the actual provider?
Uh-huh. I mean, I understand hardware is the physical,
Yeah.
just the devices and everything, and then the software is what runs the stuff. But what's the platform?
Well, okay, so software as a service is kind of like everything is already in place, built there for you. So it's a full package. You have the bare metal, you have the operating system, and then you have applications on top of it which you're using. So you have all three. Platform would be just the bare metal and then an operating system there, but there'd be no applications on it. So you would develop your own applications on there and build on top of the operating system itself.
Oh, okay. I think I.
So one of the key words you're going to look for in platform is developing and applications. So you're going to look for development of applications. When you hear those buzzwords, that should instantly lead you to platform as a service. Because software, it's already there. You're going to say something, Lindsay?
No, so software is already there. The operating.
Yes, it does. It will have an operating system on top of the metal itself. It may be Apache, it may be Windows servers, something along those lines, but that software will already be there.
So this is a place where, like Kelly is trying to say, is that developers can just jump in and create. They have everything they need in order to don't have to worry about the inner workings of how things will work. They just got to create what they want to do. And they got the service to do that. So what, like Kelly just said, keywords, developers, app creation or development, like those, that's who's going to be drawn to platform as a service.
All right. Next. So we talked about the three service models. Now we're going to talk about the types of clouds. So you have your public cloud, which would be like Amazon Web Services, something along those lines. It's publicly available. You can go out there, establish it on the clouds. You're putting your data in the hands of a third party, but that party tends to be a little more capable and knowledgeable about protecting data, than you may be, although you're still going to want to put security measures in place. So that would be a public cloud, is you're relying on a third-party company to run your servers for you. Then you have a private cloud. This would be your company establishing a cloud server for itself so that people can access this stuff remotely. So it's completely in-house. So it's private. And then you have hybrid, which does both public and private. So you may have your public portions of it. So you may have your email servers out there, your web servers, some stuff like that may be held out in public, but say your accounting, human resources, and research and development would be held in a private cloud. So your most sensitive information would be held in-house, where less sensitive information, you can farm that out to an exterior cloud. Yes, Humberto.
Yes, if you have a cloud in your premises, like in a private cloud, what is the benefit if you are having the cloud anyway in your premises?
Well, you may not necessarily all be located on the same premises. So you may be in South Carolina, but you may have employees in Seattle, in Hong Kong, in England, in Nigeria, in Brazil. You may have people all over the world, but they're all working from and utilizing the same resources. So you would have a cloud system set up that they could all have access to. Any other questions? All right. Lastly, we have the community cloud. So a community cloud may be a situation where you have multiple organizations that have a common purpose or research project that they're working on together. This is common in universities. So you'll have like University of Chicago, USC, MIT, all working on a similar project and sharing that stuff. So they will create a community cloud where only they have access to it, but you have multiple organizations taking part. Does that make sense? All right. Now, get on to some of the features of the cloud itself. When you are dealing with companies like AWS and stuff like that, these are wonderful features that they can put into place. One is rapid elasticity. So if you're selling t-shirts and then you create a viral t-shirt for some reason, you didn't think you would, but some celebrity wore it. Now all of a sudden, you know, you're starting to get hundreds of thousands of orders for that same t-shirt. You can use rapid elasticity to ramp up how many web servers you have. Like maybe you only had one web server before, but it was quickly being overrun by the amount of people trying to hit it. So you can ramp that up to 20 web servers to handle that demand instantly. So rapid elasticity, you're able to grow or shrink. So if you're H&R Block, you're able to grow for between January and March or April or whatever, you know, for tax season. And then as soon as tax season's over, you can shrink it back down. So you don't have to pay for all of that infrastructure and services year round. You're only paying for it when you need it. On-demand services. This, the customer pays for what is used at the time, and it can be, again, scaled up or scaled down as is needed. Rapid elasticity also includes other resources like RAM, additional servers, additional hardware. On demand allows you to scale it up instantly. You're not dealing with a customer service rep. You're doing it by essentially selecting it yourself. You can go in and upgrade the servers as you see fit. Resource pooling. The resources themselves are stored in multiple locations across multiple servers, so it allows for greater data security. And then measured service. You only pay for what you use. Questions so far? All right. Cloud service model issues. IaaS and HAS, you have more control. You're in charge of securing it. But if you don't have the necessary knowledge in place, you may have extremely weak security in place and leave yourself vulnerable to attacks. They don't mention it here, but there also is another SaaS, which is security as a service. You can actually hire out cybersecurity firms to protect your data. So that's another SaaS that is not noticed or not notated here. It's a little bit beyond the scope. PAAS issues. You don't necessarily have direct control over the data or the people, the infrastructure in place. You do have trained security professionals watching all the data, which is kind of nice. But again, you're trusting in a third party to do that for you. That's where the security issues come into the cloud repeatedly when you're dealing with public clouds, is you're relying on a third party to handle things for you. Then SaaS, your company at that point is using another company's system, data, everything. So all your data is essentially out there. It's not running on the company's own servers. They don't own those servers. So again, you're heavily reliant on a third party at that point. And understand, as we may have witnessed towards the beginning of this year, they can shut you down whenever they see fit. If you do something that they do not agree with, they can turn you off in a heartbeat. So that is another risk with dealing with third-party customers. Amazon did this to several companies at the beginning of this year. Just shut them off. They didn't violate terms of service. They didn't violate the agreements. They were all paid up. Amazon just said, no, turn them off. So bear in mind, you're heavily putting your business models at risk if you are dependent upon third parties entirely. So you want to maintain mixed models whenever possible. Yay, time to climb. I want everybody to get the benefit of the sound, so I'll go ahead and share sound. Give everybody a minute to get in there. I'll be right back. And that data, there is 3 layers of security with regards to data. You don't necessarily need to know this, but this is just typically how it's understood. You have data at rest, which is data that's being stored on your systems. That uses one type of security. You have data in use, which is when people are actively manipulating it. That uses a second type of security. And then you have data in transit, which is like me sending it, from me to Marvin. It needs to be secure in that process. And the most vulnerable your data is in transit, going from one to the other. When it's going over open lines, that is when it is the most vulnerable. Questions so far? All right. So we should now be able to compare and contrast the different types. Wow, it seems like somebody put the wrong slide on this one.
Yeah, that's not what we.
Yeah, that's the wrong one. That's hilarious.
But we know that you should know and be able to identify the different types of cloud computing, be it platform as a service, software as a service, infrastructure as a service. You should know the types of clouds that are available that can be used, hybrid,
community.
And also security issues that come with using cloud, and how that's something that you want to work. That's continuing improvement that's happening, because there are still certain entities that are questionable of using or accessing the cloud for their private and proprietary documentation and materials. One being hospitals. They are not big fans of cloud. They say, we'll just buy the servers, create the farm ourselves. I've been in very various conversations and meetings when I was in the hospital setting, and it was a hard no for utilization of cloud. They were like, I'd rather pay more and have all the information on our servers. I can't trust it yet. And that was still early on in the game. I don't know if it's still like that. I bet it is.
With regards to
Because-
medical records, I believe it
Yeah.
still is.
Yeah, they just
It still is.
don't want to do that. And I get it. I get it. You don't want that information so out there in a place where you can't totally say you have all control over it. You put your some eggs in a basket that you don't own. And I get it. So you're renting that basket in a sense. I love to say this. If we don't have any questions, just remember, cloud is not in the sky. It's on the ground in a warehouse, very nondescript. You may be staying next to a cloud or in a city or in a neighborhood where a cloud is located. So, and Kelly, like Kelly always tells us, it's just somebody else's computer. Any questions? All right, we're gonna shut this down.